AEW Double or Nothing is in the books, and it was a two-match show. This will go down as one of the weaker AEW pay-per-views overall that this company has ever produced. And in a way, it's a testament, I think, to just how good, how great generally their pay-per-views are, because we've had so many great ones in the past. This will not go down as one of their longer, or not longer, but one of their stronger shows. It was a two-match show. This show was saved by the two main events on this show. We had on one side, Anarchy in the Arena, which is the match that they closed tonight's show with, which of course, if you remember the Anarchy in the Arena match last year, is just pure chaos. We had the Elite, we had the Blackpool Combat Club, and basically they just ring the bell and these guys beat the hell out of each other for 30 minutes. And that's what we got here on this show tonight. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I did the one last year, but it was pretty much what I expected it to be. It was pure chaos. It was mayhem from start to finish. And in the end, the Blackpool Combat Club got a much-needed win because we have, of course, Blood and Guts, which is going to be coming up sometime in the next month or two. And you knew this was not going to be the end of this feud between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club, so the BCC had to go over. But how would they do it? That was the question. And we got, perhaps predictably, it's certainly something that I've talked about on the podcast, we had the return of Konosuke Takeshita, who has not been seen since the Blackpool Combat Club bloodied him up and took him out on television several weeks ago. He reemerged under a mask tonight to give them the assist in the main event, and that led the Blackpool Combat Club and Wheeler Yuta, of all people, to score the winning pinfall on Kenny Omega. And now, of course, we wait to see how the Elite is going to balance the scales here. I can think of somebody, I can think of one person in particular who the Elite can call on. Call in the reinforcements. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as far as who that person would be. I think you all know who that person would be. But because the Anarchy in the Arena match went on last, that meant that the World Championship match did not. And that, of course, was the Four Pillars match, MJF defending against Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. And I am sure that when those four found out they were not going on last, they were very upset. They've been doing interviews, even in their promos, talking about the fact that this was going to be the very first time that we had a main event, that we had a championship match here on one of these pay-per-views that was filled with homegrown AEW original talent. And then to be told, all right, you guys were going on second to last instead of going on last, I'm sure it lit a fire under them. I'm sure that it must have pissed them off. And they went out there with a chip on their shoulder. They had something to fight for. And I know that's how I would probably feel. And they went out there and they tore the house down. They had the best match on the entire show. And I understand why AEW went with the Anarchy in the Arena match. I would have done the same thing. I said as much, that coming into this pay-per-view, if it were up to me, I would have closed out the show with the Anarchy match. Just because of the nature of the match. It's so hard to do a match like that and then follow it up with something else. It's almost unfair to the people that have to go on after that, because you have all of these bells and whistles and all of the gimmicks and all the weapons and the blood and everything. And it's like, how do you top that? How do you go out there after that and have a straight wrestling match? So I understand with that and the Takeshita thing, why they closed out with that match. But you easily could have closed out the show tonight with that Four Pillars match. Those four guys went out there and they tore it up and had an even better match than I expected them to have. Once you get past those two main events, there ain't much to talk about. And the biggest disappointment to me on this entire show was the Unsanctioned match. So in a way, it's kind of weird because you have two matches that are very similar. You have Anarchy in the Arena, which is just weapons and blood and chaos. And that's basically what an Unsanctioned match is. They had two of the same kinds of matches on the same show. This was one of the matches I was most looking forward to. This was the Chris Jericho-Adam Cole match. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to blame this on the Las Vegas crowd, who for a good portion of the night were dead to the world. And that's a valid observation. You want to go ahead and say the crowd was dead for most of the show? Go ahead. You can't blame this on the crowd. You cannot blame this on the crowd. That was the biggest disappointment of the entire show, was the Jericho-Adam Cole match. And honestly, the rest of the card here, as I look at it, as far as the tag team title match and what they did in the women's title match, and we'll talk about why that probably happened and why that went down the way it did. But just a very mid card. A very mid card overall until we got to those two main events, and then they blew the doors wide open. But the big surprise of the night, other than the TAKESHITA appearance in the main event, surrounded the TBS Championship, because we had Jade Cargill defending her title successfully to improve to 60-0. And then Mark Sterling throws the door wide open to anybody who thinks they can come out and beat Jade Cargill, and we got the return of Kris Statlander, who has been missing in action now for almost a year. It was August of last year when she tore her ACL for the second time. And she's been gone ever since. She was the one who had to be earmarked for that TBS title, and if not, then she should have been. And the longer things went on with this Jade Cargill run, and the closer we got to a Kris Statlander return, I, like a lot of people, believe that Kris Statlander should have been the one to end the streak and take the championship from Jade Cargill. I was not expecting it to happen tonight, unannounced, the way that it did. And I will say I'm very happy to see Kris Statlander back. I'm very happy for her, because she's been through hell with these two ACL tears over the last couple of years. But the way that they went about doing it, I was not a fan. Just like I wasn't a fan of how they had Liv Morgan win Money in the Bank and the way she cashed in on Ronda Rousey because she's a babyface. I generally do not like that. I do not like the way that they will take a babyface, and it's almost like you feel sympathy for the heel in a situation like that. When they work a match and then somebody else comes out and wins the title, it kind of cheapens it in a way. So I was not really a fan of the way they kind of rushed into it, but I am very happy for Kris Statlander to get her moment. And to see her back was very cool. Beyond that, I don't really have a whole lot of enthusiastic things to say about this show. By AEW standards, this will go down as one of the most disappointing overall AEW pay-per-view efforts that I have seen. And maybe the weakest Double or Nothing they've ever done. This was number 5, I believe. And this would probably go down, not even probably, I'm sure this would go down as the weakest of all of them. But this is a very late AEW Double or Nothing 2023 review. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for staying up late with me here tonight. I appreciate it. I'm a little under the weather, so if I sound like shit, there you go. Now you know why. Now you know why if I sound a little bit different. Hit the subscribe button if you are new here, or if you're a lurker and you just haven't subscribed. I don't know what's wrong with you. Hit that sub button. Hit the like button as well. 400 likes is the goal, which we should easily beat. If we hit that, we'll do our Be the Booker segment a little bit later on. Super chats are open. I want to give a shout out here to Boots, and I want to give a shout out to Silver Tower, who each gifted 10 memberships before we even went live tonight, and Lady Fire Panda, who gifted 15 channel memberships. So if you are one of the lucky recipients who got the notification that you are a brand new channel member, you probably have one of those 3 to thank for it. So my thanks to them for that. So let's get right into it here, because we kick things off with the buy-in pre-show. They had one match on the buy-in pre-show, which was the Hardy Boys and Hook against Ethan Page and the Guns. The stipulation coming into this was that Matt Hardy would take control of Ethan Page's contract if he was to win this match. If the baby faces won, he would get control of Ethan Page's contract. This was Jeff Hardy's first match, officially, his first match in just about a year, not counting the firm deletion they did on Rampage a few weeks ago, which was a cinematic match. This was his first official match in about 11 months. And when this match was over, I just looked at Jeff Hardy and said, this man is done. He just looks done. And honestly, he's looked done for a while. But he had all this time off, and I'm sure he was able to heal his body up, and it's just one night. But it's not just a one-night thing. I look at Jeff Hardy and all that he's done to his body and all the risks and all the big spots and all the big bumps and what happened here in this match, and he just looks cooked. He just looks done. He tried for a twist of fate at one point, and it looked like he twisted his knee. in the process of doing the move, and so his leg buckled, and he went down. Shortly after that, he went for a whisper in the wind, and he slipped and took a nasty spill off the top rope and just splatted on the mat. That was sad to watch. And Taz on commentary was trying to cover for it by talking about ring rust, and it's been, so long since we've seen Jeff in the ring. And I mean, good on Taz. I thought it was a nice little save there, but he did what he could. Team Hardy won. When Ethan Page was left all by himself, he ate 2 twists of fates, and the Red Rum from Hook got the submission, so Matt Hardy owns Ethan Page's contract. And yeah, that's a good point by Primetime in the chat. My guess is what they're really waiting for is to do the eventual token tag team title win, because the one set of major tag team titles that the Hardys have never won, at least, domestically, are the AEW tag team titles. So I'm sure that Tony Khan would like to get one last nostalgic Hardy run. I'm sure Matt Hardy would love that too. One last nostalgic Hardy run where they can win the tag team titles and not even have a long run, just win them. And maybe after that, Jeff would wind down. Whatever it is, it's sad to watch at this point. Now, coming out of this match, they had the opening ceremonies for this year's Owen Hart Cup tournaments. We had Renee on stage. She welcomed Martha Hart on stage, where they had the trophies for the men and the women set up. Of course, they have the titles as well that they award to the winner. Everything was set up. The tournament is going to be kicking off next month at Forbidden Door in Toronto. Martha said that it was good to be back in Las Vegas. I'm not so sure AEW feels the same way after the crowd reactions to most of the matches on this show. And then Tony Khan walked out, and for whatever reason, Tony Khan was dressed like a pilgrim. He was wearing a fedora that had the Owen Hart Foundation logo on it. And then Tony had to leave to catch the Mayflower, which was about to set sail. The main card opened with the 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal for the AEW International Championship. They had the announce desk, by the way, positioned at ringside, which is different. Usually AEW has it up on the stage. This time they had the announce desk at ringside. Jim Ross joined Excalibur and Taz on commentary, so they had JR do about the first half of the show. We had Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Bandito, Ari Daivari, Tony Nese, Lee Moriarty, Big Bill, Commander, The Butcher and the Blade, Kip Sabian, Jay White, Juice Robinson, Dustin Rhodes, Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, Ricky Starks, Penta, Ray Phoenix, Brian Cage, and of course, the defending champion, Orange Cassidy. Brian Cage and Big Bill, they were 2 men who had a chance to shine here in this match, and they got a number of notable eliminations, especially Big Bill. They made it almost to the end as well. They weren't the final, 2 people, but they made it pretty deep into the Battle Royal. We got a brief exchange at one point between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland that did not get the kind of heat that you would hope for, which I think is just a product of them waiting too long. I mean, how many months has it been? And we still haven't gotten that big singles match between these two. And I don't know if it's some sort of injury issue. Maybe, one of them, Keith Lee or somebody, there was some reason why they couldn't do it. It's not like he's been missing, right? He's been around. Swerve's been around. So you wait and you wait and you wait, and it just loses whatever heat that it may have had. So I just felt this should have gotten a bigger reaction when they had their face-off here. Maybe in the building it sounded louder, but it didn't sound loud to me. So Brian Cage dumped Keith Lee out of the ring. The crowd did not like that. Ricky Starks, he dumped out Juice Robinson. Jay White ate a spear from Ricky, and Jay White was then eliminated by Ricky Starks. And at that point, of course, I mean, that's going to keep the feud going between them, which you had to expect. Juice pulled Ricky to the floor, not over the top rope, so he was not eliminated, and Jay White sent him into the guardrail. Big Bill clocked Ricky with a big boot that sent him out to boos from the crowd. That was a big elimination for Bill. Again, they really put some shine on him here in this match, and I thought he looked good in this Battle Royal. Brian Cage took a code red from Dustin Rhodes on the ring apron, or a destroyer, and Cage fell to the floor. Dustin then got immediately booted to the ground, and so he was gone. That was by Swerve Strickland. Big Bill eliminated Penta with another big boot. So, I mean, he got rid of some big fan favorites here in this match. And he laid out Orange Cassidy with a gigantic Bossman slam. So it came down to Cassidy, Swerve, and Bill. Bill went to press OC over his head out of the ring. Strickland, though, ended up dumping Big Bill. And so we came down here to the final two. It was Orange Cassidy and Swerve Strickland. This was the best part of the Battle Royal. These closing moments here with these two were the best part of the entire match. Both men took turns trying to dump each other. Prince Nana at one point tripped up Cassidy, allowed Swerve to hit the Swerve Stomp. Cassidy fought back. Again, they went back and forth for a while. Both men ended up on the apron, and Cassidy was downed. So Swerve went back up. He was going to try for a Swerve Stomp, but onto the apron where Cassidy was laying. When Swerve came off the top, Cassidy got his feet up, and he booted Swerve in the face. And now Swerve is holding on by one hand, right? He's woozy. He's holding on by one hand. Orange Cassidy is setting up for an orange punch, and then he stops himself. And he has a change of heart, and he very casually walks over to Swerve Strickland and gives him a very light kick to the hand. And Swerve lets go. He falls to the ground, and so Orange Cassidy wins the Battle Royal. He outlasts 20 other men to retain his international championship. Like I said, I enjoyed the final few minutes of this. The rest of it was the usual, Battle Royal fare. So the reign continues. If he outlasted 20 other men, and the story they've been telling on television is that he's been worn down, right? He's burning the candle at both ends. He's been defending the title so often. This man is just, any week now, right? He's bound to lose. And he just outlasted 20 other men in one match. It begs the question, like, who's going to beat this guy? For all the people he's already beaten, and then winning the Battle Royal tonight, who's going to beat this guy? And the only thing I could think is what they may be doing is, because I believe he was featured on the poster as well for the show. They could be saving a title change for the first episode of Collision in Chicago at the United Center. That more than Forbidden Door even, I think, would be a likely place for him to drop that championship. Because, it feels like he's coming to the end of his run, and yet this fucker keeps on winning. And he's beating all these people. It's like, well, it's not as if they have a shortage of people who would be worthy of being the one to take the title from him. You can go through the entire list of people. Take your pick, right? From Jay White to Powerhouse Hobbs to Miro. If we assume a heel is going to beat him, right? There's a whole laundry list of people. Malachi Black, if he wasn't doing the trios thing. There's plenty of people. And now we have a heel TAKESHITA, by the way. So that's another possibility now with TAKESHITA going heel. He could win the international title. Would not at all surprise me. But I think they're aiming for that first. If I had a bet, I think they're aiming for that first Collision show in Chicago. So then we had Chris Jericho with the JAS in his corner. One-on-one with Adam Cole, with Roderick Strong in his, and Sabu as well. In an unsanctioned match, with Sabu as the special enforcer. Now, how Sabu can be in Adam Cole's corner and be partial to him while at the same time being an impartial special enforcer, that was never explained. So Sabu showed up. He could not look any less interested in being there if he tried. But he got a nice payday, I'm sure, from Tony Khan, so good for him. Sabu and Roddy, they chucked chairs immediately at Matt Menard and Angelo Parker in the aisle when they came charging after them. Sabu and Jericho, they had a chairs battle in the ring that Sabu won. Jim Ross at this point on commentary. We couldn't see what was going on, but you could hear Jim Ross. He screamed at somebody. And on commentary, you could hear him say, he called somebody stupid, like, hey, stupid, or something. And then the announcers went silent for about 10 seconds before they just continued on with the commentary. So it sounded like maybe somebody got a little too close to JR, because, again, there was a lot of chaos going on. And they were positioned at the ringside area now, which usually they're not. So it sounded to me like maybe that's what happened. It's like the Bobby Heenan moment. when Brian Pillman grabbed Bobby Heenan and Bobby Heenan had the bad neck and he didn't know if Pillman had evil intentions and he said fuck live on the air and he got up and walked away. This may have been Jim Ross's Bobby Heenan moment, but I couldn't see what was going on. So Adam Cole set up a table outside the ring. Sabu went up top and he jumped, or more like he fell off. But he fell off the top rope. He put Parker and Menard through the table. So Sabu did take the bump. That was the one bump he took here on this show. And that was the last that we ever saw of Sabu for the rest of this match. As the enforcer, that was the last that we saw of Sabu here for the rest of this match. He never factored into the match at all. Strong and Hager, Sabu, all the men not named Jericho or Cole, they fought to the back. They left things one-on-one. These two worked very hard. I don't want to take away from the effort that they put in, and they had the welts all over their body, and they were getting their big spots in. So they were putting in the work. This just never clicked. And the crowd was shockingly quiet. This match had a shocking, like, such a small amount of heat or noise or energy when you consider the fact that you had two of the biggest stars in the company. And this feud has been a personal feud. They've dedicated a lot of television time to these two on Dynamite over the last month or so. So when you consider all of those factors, and for a match that was promoted as one of the bigger matches on this card, the crowd was depressingly quiet for this. Jericho controlled the action for a while. With a chair set up in the corner, Jericho charged in. He ran headfirst into it. They had a spot here where Cole missed the Panama Sunrise. That got countered into a Walls of Jericho. Excalibur said that because this was an unsanctioned match, there are no rope breaks, so the ropes would not save Adam Cole. They were close enough to the corner, though, that Cole could reach down. They picked up the ring skirt, and so we could see that underneath the ring was a fire extinguisher. And it was very clear that the idea was that Cole would reach down, and he would grab the fire extinguisher and, drag it into the ring, and he would spray Jericho with it. I don't know if he was having trouble gripping it or what the delay was. But this spot was, it felt like it took forever for him to actually grab the thing. Then when he finally did, Jericho dragged him to the center of the ring, and Jericho looked down, and he spotted the hose from the fire extinguisher. And Adam Cole tried to, trigger it, and it didn't go on right away. It felt like forever, but it was probably only about three or 4 seconds. But Jericho had to stand there and just stare at it and wait to be sprayed in the face. And then finally he got sprayed in the face. I'm like, oh God. So Cole went to drop the boom, ran right into a code breaker for 2. Jericho returned the favor. He sprayed Cole with the fire extinguisher. Then he got a kendo stick. He took too long, though. And Britt Baker ran down to the ring with a kendo stick of her own. She lit up Jericho with the stick. She did not hold back. These were not weak shots. I'm sure Jericho went to her and said, look, fucking lay those shots in. Saraya hit the ring. She got clobbered with the stick as well. And Britt chased her to the back. Cole climbed to the top rope. Took too long, though. And Jericho tossed a chair at his face. And Adam Cole took a backwards bump through a table that was set up on the floor. Jericho pulled out a chain. He pulled out handcuffs, which Jericho locked on Cole's hand. Cole, though, got the advantage, and he cuffed Jericho as well. So this ended up turning into a chain match. Cole hit a Panama Sunrise, but he missed the boom. Jericho started whipping away with the chain. Jericho tried to choke out Cole. Cole came back with a super kick and finally lowered the boom. He wrapped the chain around his knee, hit another boom to the back of the head, and he started raining punches down on Chris Jericho, right? So he's pounding on this guy, and he's pounding on this guy, and Aubrey Edwards calls for the stoppage to end the match. The crowd was quiet for the finish, and when they realized what had just happened, they booed. The babyface won, and they booed. Because they, like me, thought that this finish sucked. This was a very flat finish that did not go over well with this crowd. And you know what? I will tell you, that was as bad as the finish to the Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Hell in a Cell match. I think Mick Foley was the referee for that one. About 5 years ago it would have been. They had that Hell in a Cell match that ended in a no contest when Brock Lesnar stormed into the cage. He broke into the cell and he beat both guys up. I think he had like pieces of table and stuff, and he's beating the crap out of Roman. He's beating the crap out of Braun. And the referee calls the match off in a Hell in a Cell match. I remember reviewing that show. I remember what I said and what a lot of people said. How is this any better? You have a non-sanctioned match. They went out of their way at the beginning of this to say that AEW bears no responsibility for what happens here. The only purpose that the referee serves is to count the winning fall. That's it. And instead, they go for the kicking too much ass finish as he's punching Jericho, and Aubrey Edwards says, nope, that's it. Match is over. She calls the match off. So you can't say that one is bad, but the other wasn't so bad. No, it's basically the same idea. That sucked, and this sucked. So that was a very lame finish. And look, as far as the match itself, people are going to blame the crowd for this. And as I said, the crowd was shockingly quiet, not just for this match, but other things on the show as well. You can say that, but you cannot blame the crowd for this being a bad match. The match just wasn't that good. It was disappointing. I had high expectations for this coming into this show, but you cannot sit here and blame the crowd. And look, there are people who are going to blame Jericho. Oh, Jericho's 50-something years old. He's losing his touch. Look, that may be true too, but I'll tell you this much. I sat here reviewing Dynamite, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Chris Jericho had that Falls Count Anywhere match with Roderick Strong. I loved it. That was so much fun. That was a great match that took advantage of the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation. That match was light years better and more entertaining than this match was. So it's not as if Jericho can't pull a great match out of himself and he's all washed up and he can't work anymore. So you can't just blame that either. They just went out there in front of the worst possible crowd they could and had a disappointing match and a very underwhelming match. And that's too bad because this was one of the matches I was most looking forward to here on this show. I think part of the problem also is that AEW does a lot of hardcore matches, right? We had 2 of them on the show tonight. They closed the show out with Anarchy in the arena with thumbtacks and exploding super kicks. And I think there was broken glass and there all kinds of weapons and blood, right? And they had this match on the same show. We get hardcore matches like this on Dynamite every single week, on Rampage. They've had Rampage shows where fucking Dustin Rhodes is bleeding. Why, I couldn't tell you. This company overdoes it with the hardcore stuff. And the drawback of that is that when they have a match like this and they're doing these spots with tables and with chains and kendo sticks, we've already seen it. We see it every week. You've got to do something to differentiate it from every other fucking hardcore match that they do. And there just wasn't really anything here to make this match stand out. I think that was part of the problem too. So anyway, in the back later, Jericho and Saraya, they threw a tantrum about what happened. And they said that they were going to go to Tony Khan to get a match made for Dynamite this Wednesday. It would be he and Saraya taking on Adam Cole and Britt Baker, which we were told later on in the show, Tony Khan made it official, so that match is going to happen on Wednesday. A staff member walked over to these 2 to tell them to calm down and quiet down, and Jericho threw a fireball in his face. So there you go. FTR against Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett with Mark Briscoe as the guest referee for the AEW Tag Team Championship. Mark Briscoe had a hell of a time keeping the peace and keeping law and order here in this match with all the constant interference from Sanjay Dutt and Karen Jarrett. Dax superplexed Lethal, which led to a doomsday powerbomb by FTR. Sanjay, though, pulled Harwood to the floor to break the count. And at that point, Briscoe had seen enough. And he called for Sanjay and Satnam Singh to be ejected from ringside. Jarrett, though, snuck in from behind with a guitar. Harwood moved, and Briscoe ate the guitar shot instead. So down goes the referee, right? He got blasted with the guitar shot. Aubrey Edwards sprints to the ring because now we need a referee. So she sprints down to the ring. Sanjay steps in the way to block her path. Karen Jarrett walks over. And Karen Jarrett has a guitar. And she obliterates Aubrey Edwards with a guitar shot, which got a big pop, actually, from a lot of the fans in the crowd. It's not very often that we see Aubrey take a big bump like that. So she got clobbered with a guitar and she got taken down. In the ring, Lethal hit a double lethal injection to Dax and Cash. Karen threw one of the tag team belts to Jay Lethal. As Jeff Jarrett held Harwood, he fought free. He laid out Lethal with a pile driver. Jarrett caught Harwood with a belt shot, hit him with the stroke. As Sanjay woke up Mark Briscoe to make a very close 2 count. Jarrett was obviously pissed off. He started pie-facing Briscoe until Briscoe slapped him. He turned around right into the big rig from FTR, and they retained their tag team titles. So it would not be a Jeff Jarrett match without being overbooked to oblivion. This was no different. I thought it was fun for what it was. I think including Mark Briscoe did make it more enjoyable. I always enjoy seeing Mark Briscoe. So this was fun for what it was. You know, a very basic tag team match that, again, had tons and tons and tons of interference. But you had to expect that coming in because that's their MO. That's what they do in every match. Alex Marvez was in the back with Ricky Starks, who was asked about Bullet Club Gold. And before he could even speak, who shows up? Bullet Club Gold. He gets jumped by Juice Robinson and Jay White. FTR, who just had a match, it's like they teleported to the backstage area because there they were. And Bullet Club Gold ran off. So it looks like Ricky has got some backup now for whatever they're going to do. Maybe, Juice and Switchblade now end up with a third Bullet Club member they bring in. They do a trios match. I don't know. But it looks like Ricky has some backup of his own. We had Wardlow taking on Christian Cage in a ladder match for the TNT Championship. Luchasaurus walked out with Christian, but he ended up staying in the back for the match. Although he did come back out midway through. And hang on a second, guys. I want to cough into the microphone. That's very unprofessional. I don't want to hack my guts up in front of all you people. So you're going to have to bear with me here. Hopefully I don't hack my guts up here live on the air. Although midway through the show, I kind of wanted to hack my guts up. But then things started to turn around a little bit here with this match. So Wardlow set up a ladder bridge. And he was setting up to powerbomb Christian on it. Christian, though, rolled down to the floor. And he yanked Wardlow's leg out from under him. And he crotched himself. He crotched Wardlow in between the rungs of the ladder, which did not look very pleasant for poor Wardlow. Wardlow's had some tough luck. Wardlow has had a tough year. But that didn't look too good. So at that point, we got actual signs of life. We got a pulse from this crowd. They started to chant turtleneck at Christian, who was in fact wearing a turtleneck here during this match. In case you didn't know, he was a heel, because only heels would wear turtlenecks while they're wrestling. It's like IRS when he used to wrestle in the suit, well, not the suit, but the shirt and the suspenders and the tie. Why would you work a match like that, right? It doesn't make any sense. So Wardlow got Christian laid out across one of the ladders when he came back. He was just, laid out flat in the ring on the mat. And he went up top for a flying senton. Christian moved, and Wardlow just ate that ladder. Or maybe I should say the ladder ate him up. Cage climbed the ladder as Arn Anderson was helping Wardlow up. And he leapt onto the ladder. So if you can picture this, and we've seen people like Shelton Benjamin, right, do spots like this before, Ricochet. Wardlow's a bigger guy, though. He's bigger than those guys. And he jumped from the ropes. He landed on the ladder, but I guess the weight of Wardlow ended up, the ladder kind of collapsed. The rung of the ladder he landed on collapsed under his weight, and they slowly fell over off the ladder. Both men did. So Wardlow looked like he was hurt. He was grabbing his shin. He came up limping as he tried to climb the broken ladder. I don't know why these people do this. Why do they insist on climbing the broken, clearly wobbling ladder when you have other ladders laying all over the place? I see other wrestlers do that. What's wrong with you? Don't do that. Get a stable ladder. Last thing you need to do is fall off and tear out your knee. So Rick Knox tried to tell him, like, you can't do it, man. He's like holding the ladder down, but he's like, just get a new one. So He throws the ladder aside. He grabs another one. At this point, Luchasaurus gets into the ring, and he chokeslams Wardlow twice. Arn Anderson makes the save. He gets into the ring. And Arn Anderson almost got chokeslammed himself. Now, I noticed something a little strange about Arn Anderson when he got in the ring. Arn Anderson had his mouth closed. Like, I thought for a second he was going to do a mist spot, like he was Asuka, right? Like, his mouth was closed, and he was taking great pains not to open it up, as Luchasaurus had him goozled for a chokeslam. Arn then, it became very clear why. Arn then bit down on the dinosaur's thumb. Do dinosaurs have thumb? Well, this one does. He bit down on Luchasaurus's thumb, and he drew blood from the very obvious blood capsule that was in his mouth. You could also tell because it was so dark. The blood was so, like, dark red. Clearly, he had a blood capsule in his mouth. The blood was all over his mouth. Wardlow took out Luchasaurus with a chair. He set him up across 2 tables outside the ring, not stacked, but they were sitting side by side. And he lays Luchasaurus across the tables. And Wardlow proceeds to climb a gigantic ladder. This was the Jeff Hardy spot from WrestleMania. He climbs this giant ladder. He hits an incredible swanton bomb. From the top of the ladder, picture perfect, hits Luchasaurus on the way down. The tables collapse. It looked as safe as a spot like that could be. But it looked great. So with both men down on one side of the ring, the camera cuts to the other side of the ring. You know that classic shot from WrestleMania. From the Vince McMahon Hulk Hogan match, where Vince is peering up above the apron, right? The bloody Vince, we see his eyes, right? Such a great shot. Well, this was not that, but it was a similar kind of shot where on that side of the ring, which is where the announcers were, you can see Christian Cage has emerged, right? And he sees that Wardlow is down on the ground on the other side of the ring. So Christian gets into the ring. He starts climbing the ladder. By this point, Arn and Wardlow are both in the ring. Arn tips the ladder over slowly, and Christian falls into position. Perfect position for the powerbomb. He falls basically into the powerbomb position on Wardlow's shoulders, and Wardlow gives him one powerbomb. And Christian rolls out to the floor. Wardlow climbs the ladder, and he pulls down the TNT Championship to retain. So Wardlow picks up the win here, which, honestly, I mean, this was the best match of the night up to this point. Easily the best match on the show up until this point. And it was a win that Wardlow needed. As much as I would one day like to see Christian Cage get a run, a heel run, this was not the time for it. This was a win that Wardlow desperately needed. We had Jamie Hayter against Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship. You know, it's sad because they had such a great match at Full Gear. They tore the house down. That was when Jamie won the championship. So I know what these two are capable of. And they just were not able to give that to us here for reasons beyond their control. It was bedtime for Jim Ross, so Tony Schiavone magically appeared on commentary. Jim Ross was gone. There were reports coming into this show that Hayter is legitimately hurt. Not injured. Nothing is torn. Nothing is broken. But she's banged up. She's feeling it, whatever it is. I don't know that it's any one specific injury, but she's hurt. She could need some time off. The fact that this only lasted 3 minutes and they took the title off of her should pretty much tell you that she's banged up and she's probably going to be taking some time off. Hayter did not come out initially when her music first played. Then the second time we had Saraya and Ruby Soho. They tossed her out, so they had beaten her up basically. And she had the kinesio tape on her shoulder from the storyline injury from Dynamite like a month ago when Tony had thrown her into the ring steps. And she had used the ring steps to injure Jamie's arm. So again, I don't think it's an arm injury, like a legitimate arm injury. That was the storyline injury that they went with. So she had the tape on her arm. So Paul Turner is asking Jamie, are you okay? You know, are you ready to go? Can you go? And Jamie, of course, says, yes, I can go. So he rings the bell. Saraya immediately untied a turnbuckle pad in the corner, and the referee just stood there and watched. Okay, cool. Britt Baker ran out to brawl with Saraya. This was the second time on the show that she was out there to brawl with Saraya. And they fought to the back. Hayter tossed Storm into the corner where the referee was and squashed Paul Turner. Now, he didn't go down. What I mean by that is he didn't get knocked out. This was a ref bump, but he quickly recovered. He basically just he was dazed, and he, shook it off. And then he just kind of went on from there. I'm not really sure what the purpose of this was because he did just shake it off, and it never really factored into anything. So it was a ref bump, but again, it meant nothing. Hayter got a near fall on Storm, who then took the referee for the distraction to allow Ruby to spray paint Jamie in the eyes. Storm hit Sweet Cheek music for 2. I watch her do that move. I have no idea how she doesn't kill somebody with that. I mean, the way their head whiplashes back. I mean, it looks great. It looks devastating. I have no idea how she protects her opponents when she does that. I have no idea. I know there's a lot of people in this chat right now that would love to take the Sweet Chin music from Toni Storm, but that looks like a very dangerous maneuver. So Hikaru Shida hit the ring. She had a kendo stick of her. That's her whole gimmick, right? She has the kendo stick. She showed up. She brawled with Ruby. Hayter sent Storm into the exposed buckle and hit the Haterade, but she was unable to capitalize. She had the bad arm that she was favoring. Hayter tried another one. She got sent awkwardly into the exposed buckle, and Toni hit Storm 0 to win the championship. This sucked. And it's understandable if Hayter was limited in what she could do, if she really is hurt, but this still sucked. This was an overbooked match, more interference, another ref bump. We already had this on the show. We had this, I think, in the previous 2 matches. So it was just overbooked. Nothing like their match at Full Gear. So it's too bad, Jamie was hurt and just couldn't deliver what I'm sure she really wanted to. Now, I had Toni Storm in my predictions. I had Toni Storm winning this match. My whole thing is whether Jamie was really hurt or not, it's not a bad idea to let Toni Storm win the championship because I think so long as she's able to, physically able to, when you get to Wembley Stadium at the end of August, it would be much better. It'd be a bigger moment to have Jamie win the championship as opposed to just going in there and defending it. Or even worse, losing it. So doing the title change here, I was not against the idea. I don't hate the fact that they did the title change, even if they didn't have to. Because I think it's going to mean more. That's assuming, though, that she's not so hurt that she's going to miss All In. So hopefully she's not gone for too long. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. And
Jerry Lawler
run it back.
Loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Hey, Prime Time, thank you for the $50 Gunther bomb. Very cool of you, my friend. Thank you for that super chat. I appreciate that. Again, I will be going through all of your super chats here when we are done here with this review, but you will see them popping up on screen. So, Prime Time, thank you very much. So again, so long as Jamie can come back healthy, she wins the title back at All In at Wembley in front of a big crowd like that, right? 70,000 people. No harm, no foul. Right? That'd be a huge moment for her. We had the House of Black with an open challenge for their trios titles to anybody who wanted to accept, which ended up being the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. Max Caster, in his rap, had a line about Buddy Matthews being cucked by a kid named Dominic. And that probably got the biggest reaction of anything in his rap. They targeted the knee of Anthony Bowens here. So he sold and sold and sold. For a long time he sold as his partners were trying to reach for the tag. Buddy Matthews jumped. He springboarded off the ropes at one point. He got caught, blasted with a super kick. Bowens finally made the hot tag to Billy Gunn. He worked over Malachi Black. He worked over Buddy Matthews. Gunn no-sold a kick from Brody King and then gave him a famouser. He hit another famouser on Buddy Matthews, but then he turned and he got caught with the Black Mass. Or whatever the hell he calls it now. I still call it the Black Mass. The roundhouse kick took down Billy Gunn. That led to the House of Black retaining the trios titles. I thought it was a solid match. House of Black has yet to lose. Since winning those trios titles, they have been undefeated. Then we had Jade Cargill defending her TBS Championship against Taya Valkyrie. And this time, unlike their first match, Taya would be allowed to use her Road to Valhalla finish. It's the same exact finish that Jade uses, just has a different name. She was banned from using it in their first match, right? There was no such ban here in the second match. And I like this more than their first match, too. This was a better match. This was actually, I thought, one of the better Jade Cargill matches I've seen. Cargill went for a sleeper hold. Taya quickly countered into a blue thunder bomb. Jade attempted a springboard attack. Taya, though, hit what looked like maybe a code breaker. I'm not sure. It was a little clunky. Basically, she caught her with double knees on the way down. Excuse me. Taya tied up Jade's legs and hit a nasty curb stomp. She curb stomped the shit out of this woman. I mean, this looked stiff. Taya connected with a spear, and then she hit her finish. She hit the Road to Valhalla, but Jade got a shoulder up at the last possible second. Taya went for another attack. Jade, though, kicked her in the face and hit the Jaded to retain the title. No surprise there. I don't know that anybody really expected Jade to lose on this show. Or at least not lose to Taya, I should say. So when the match was over, Mark Sterling got in the ring. He pointed out that Jade was now 60-0, undefeated, as the TBS champion, has beaten every challenger that this company has put in front of her, and they would take on anyone, anywhere, anytime. So they stood there awkwardly, clearly waiting for someone's music to play. Even Jade, at once, Jade was facing the hard camera, and she kind of snuck a look in, like, okay, what's going on here? So they're standing around awkwardly for a few seconds when out comes Chris Statlander, who got a great reaction from the crowd. They were very happy to see her. They knew who she was, obviously. She has been out since last August with a torn ACL. Got hurt in August, had surgery in September, so it's been almost 9 months. And I just literally today on episode 810 of the podcast was just talking about her. I said, we're coming up on 9 months in June, which is, usually the high end for like an ACL surgery. Usually it's about 9 months when you see somebody come back. So I figured, all right, we're coming up soon on the return of Statlander. I was not expecting it to be tonight on this show. So we got an impromptu match. This was basically her Money in the Bank cash-in, basically, is what this was. Cargill missed the pump kick. Statlander hit a roundhouse kick, corner charge with a knee lift, and then she attempted a stalling vertical suplex. She had Jade up for a few seconds. Jade was able to knee her way out of it, and then she landed on her feet. She tried for Jaded. Statlander reversed it into her inverted pile driver, the Big Bang Theory, and she spiked her down on her head. She covered Jade, and she pinned her to win the TBS Championship. The streak is over. Chris Statlander is the one in 60-1. It's great to see Statlander back. It's exactly what I figured they were doing. They were holding off until Chris Statlander was healthy and she was ready to come back. I just wasn't expecting it this soon. Now, I would not have done it this way. I would not have done it this way. I would have had Statlander make a big dramatic return, probably interrupting Jade, even on this show, instead of doing the match. Have her come out after, maybe an interrupter, and maybe they have a little pull apart or something. Or you can save it for TV. But you build to it. You build to it. You tell the story about Statlander being besieged by injuries, plagued by injuries, trying to make a comeback. And Jade is just insulting her and mocking her every single week. Who are you? You're a little alien girl. Whatever, And you build it. You build it for a big show, maybe like an All In at Wembley, or maybe All Out, or maybe, Full Gear, or something in a few months at the end of the summer or in the fall. That's where I figured they were going with this. That's what I would have done. Instead, they went right to Final Jeopardy here. They just had her show up, and she won the championship in 2 minutes. So she got her big moment. They gave her a big confetti celebration when it was all over. But she's a babyface. And I know everybody in the building popped, and everybody in the building, of course they popped, because they saw a title change. I mean, Jade has not been beaten. She was undefeated. She was 60-0. She's been mowing down people now for months and months and months. So, of course, people were going to be very excited to see somebody go in there and finally shut her up and beat her and see a title change. But you have a babyface going in there taking advantage of a heel who just wrestled in a full match, who is exhausted, who is not at, her peak condition. So obviously they're going to have to run this back. There's going to be a rematch, and Statlander will win that too, probably. But this whole idea of the babyface going in there and taking advantage of the downed heel, instead of, earning it the way that they should. I don't want you at 50%. I don't want you at 70%. I want you at 100%. And they didn't do that. So again, I disagree with the way that they went about doing it. I think they rushed it for no reason. But look, I am happy. I'm happy that she's back. I'm happy that she got her moment. She looked great. She looked fantastic. She looked just the way she looked when she left before. And I think she's going to be over, especially now with Jamie Hayter. If Hayter is going to be gone for a little bit, she may sort of replace Hayter in that role as like the most over babyface on the women's roster. And again, she's been through the ringer over the last couple of years with those 2 ACL tears. Jade actually just made a comment about her. She did an interview with SEScoops.com, and she called her Glass Woman. I was just talking about this earlier today. She called her Glass Woman. I don't want to hurt her, she said. I am going to watch her matches, though, as I did here. And I'm gonna watch them and be like, just knowing what she's been through, boy, that would suck if she wasn't able to stay healthy. So here's hoping that she can stay healthy, because she deserves this moment. For all the shit that she's been through, she deserves this moment. So up next was the first half of our double main event. On Saturday at Night of Champions, we had a triple main event. Tonight, we only had a double main event. Soon on these pay-per-views, every match is going to be the main event. We're going to have a quadruple main event, and then what comes after that? What do you call a 6-match main event? What is that? I don't know, but we had a double main event on this show. This was the 4 Pillars match for the AEW World Championship. It was MJF defending against Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara walked out. He was not alone. He walked out with his wife, Ty Mello, and he had the giant cue cards, which was a product of the Daily's Place, pandemic era episodes of Dynamite, when he would come out, usually during the picture-in-picture breaks, and he wouldn't say anything. He would just hold up these signs. So he came out with the signs, and he had Ty with him, who was wearing this big, like, puffy white dress. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, something looks different about her. And then they revealed that they had some big news to share with all of us. And the big news was that they're having a baby. They're going to be having their first child together. How about that? What a baby face. That's about the best thing you can do to try to get this guy over as a baby face going into this match. You're talking about a baby face move. Literally. So congrats. That's very cool. That's very exciting for them. And it's cool, too, because they cut to the ring, and I don't know if Jungle Boy was aware of this or not. I would think he was. But he had a smile on his face, like he was very happy for them. So anyway, congrats to the happy couple. So footage aired as they were getting ready for Darby's entrance. Footage aired of a wedding in Vegas, somewhere, some chapel somewhere, I guess in Las Vegas, being officiated by an Elvis impersonator. And the groom was a guy who had a what looked like maybe a cardboard cutout face, I guess, mask of MJF. It was like MJF's face. He was wearing it on his face. Darby Allin shows up, and he hits the MJF guy with his skateboard, and then he worked him over with some punches, and he asked the Elvis impersonator to help him dispose of the body. And the Elvis impersonator said that it wouldn't be the first time, so they put the body in a car, which Elvis drove, while Darby held on to the back while riding his skateboard. Okay. I don't know what to say to that, but there you go. Back live, Darby skateboarded into the arena. He was dressed in an Elvis jumpsuit. MJF made his entrance wearing his devil mask. If you remember, he's worn that a few times, but he wore it all out when he came back in September. So he was wearing the white devil mask as he was being lowered, sitting on a golden throne. I feel like I should be sitting on one of those when I do these streams. I should be sitting on my golden throne. Sitting on a golden throne as the throne was slowly lowered down onto the stage. So the other three pillars, they ganged up on MJF at the start. They disposed of him right away. Sammy threw Darby aside. They just kept taking shots at MJF every time he would try to get back in here. I can't possibly recap, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to recap everything. There was so much chaos. There were so many big moves, and there were so many spots here in this match. It would be impossible for me to sit here and recap all of it. I'm not going to do that at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I will tell you, I'll give you the highlights. But this was pure insanity from these four. These four felt like they were out there on a mission. They were met on a mission here on this show because, again, they probably were irked that they were not getting the main event spot, and they wanted to go out there and say, hey, top this. So they went out there and they tore the house down. This was, I mean, you talk about a tepid crowd reaction for a lot of matches on this show. The crowd woke up for this. MJF ran the ropes a couple of times. At one point, he was teasing a dive, and of course, he didn't dive. He did the Fargo strut instead. And then he swiveled his hips like Rick Rude. Darby sent MJF to the floor, hit him with a suicide dive. Jungle Boy returned the favor. He hit suicide dives on Darby and MJF. And then hit a flip dive onto both men. And then Sammy, of course, not one to be shown up, performed a shooting star press onto all three. So a little while later, Sammy hit a corkscrew dive onto Jungle Boy on the floor. And he got MJF on the ropes. MJF bit Guevara's forehead, and he followed up a little while later by powerbombing Guevara onto his knee. He launched him into Jungle Boy, who was in the corner. And then he hit a pile driver on Darby Allin for a near fall. So MJF grabs the microphone at this point, and he wants to address Sammy Guevara. And he says to Sammy, I know you have a baby on the way, so you really should, do the right thing and lay down for me. You want to make some money. You should lay down for me. Think about the baby, he says. Think about the baby.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean The Rock, A Rock. You rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Silver Tower just dropped a $110 super chat saying, thanks for the review. Hope you get better soon. I hope I get better soon too, because this sucks. But I wasn't missing the pay-per-view streams. So we did Night of Champions, and now we're doing Double or Nothing. We still got Raw tomorrow night too. Hey, Silver Tower, man, that's awesome, man. $110 bomb. Thank you very much. Silver Tower has been one of the MVPs, if not the MVP, all week here on this channel. So thank you, sir. So again, MJF is telling Sammy, think about the baby. And Sammy takes the microphone. He goes, I'll do it. I'll lay down for you. I'm going to lay down for you and take the money. So he lays down in the middle of the ring. MJF goes over to cover him. And of course, he got hooked into an inside cradle for a near fall. You can see that coming. Apparently, all of us could see that coming, except for MJF. So Darby hit a Scorpion Death Drop. This was an interesting sequence here. Darby hit a Scorpion Death Drop. Sammy hit a Code Breaker. Jungle Boy hit a Kill Switch. And MJF dropped Jungle Boy with a Crossroads for a near fall. So all four men paid tribute to their mentors. Sting, Chris Jericho, Christian Cage, and Cody Rhodes. So I thought that was a nice little sequence there. There was a spot where all four men, this was a short time later, all four men had simultaneous submissions applied. This thing was looking like a human centipede before MJF broke up the, I guess, I don't know what you would call this. Again, it reminded me of the human centipede, but whatever you want to call it, MJF finally broke it up. So this led to 3 destroyers in a row. Unfortunately, the destroyer in wrestling is the new, or at least in this company, but I think in wrestling in general, the destroyer is the new super kick. Sadly. Jungle Boy used Sammy and Darby's backs as launch pads to hit a destroyer to MJF for 2. On the outside, Darby launched Jungle Boy into the barricade. And then he got a running head start, and he tackled Jungle Boy and MJF. He tackled them hard over the barrier into the crowd. Sammy cut off Darby while he was climbing the ropes. He hit a Spanish fly onto MJF and Jungle Boy on the floor. And this deservedly got loud chants of holy shit. I mean, there's such a little margin for error, when it comes to big moves like that. But he hit it perfectly. So with everybody back inside, all 4 men were slugging it out. Darby got a code red. Jungle Boy hit a charging forearm on MJF. Actually, all 3 of them hit their finish on MJF. So it was Sammy with the GTH. And again, then it was Darby with the code red. It was Jungle Boy with the forearm. So they were all trying to get the pin. So we got a crazy series of near falls here. Darby hit another code red. He went for a coffin drop. And MJF crotched him instead. MJF then hit a powerbomb off the top rope as a tribute to Chris Candido, which Taz pointed out. He named Candido. He said MJF was a big Candido fan. That, of course, was a big move that Candido used to use in ECW. Darby kicked out. So Sammy hit a cutter off the ropes on Jungle Boy, who rolled to the floor. MJF hit a low blow on Sammy. And then he pulled out the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And Darby smacked MJF in the back of the head with his skateboard and just obliterated him. It looked like he landed on his face with a coffin drop. And then he applied a side headlock. He tried to beat him that way. Jungle Boy, though, broke up the pin. And we had Jungle Boy and Darby Allin. They collided in the middle. MJF tried to hit Jungle Boy with the AEW World title. Sammy tackled him to the outside. And now Jungle Boy was in the ring, and he had possession of the big Burberry belt. He is standing there with the AEW World Championship. He is having a crisis of conscience here. Should I or should I not? Should I use this title? Should I whack this guy in the head with this championship belt? Is this the way that I want to win the AEW World title? The fans are egging him on because the fans want him to use the title. So finally, Jungle Boy decides against it. He throws the belt out of the ring, and he gets booed. These fans wanted him to cheat. They wanted him to use that championship, so they booed him. And clearly, he did not learn the lesson that Roddy Piper learned at WrestleMania 8 when he went to go use the ring bell on Bret Hart in their match. And you remember Bobby Heenan on commentary, what the hell, use the bell. And Piper was always a heel. I mean, he was a heel at heart, but he decided against it. He decided to be a nice guy. Well, you know what happens to nice guys? They get fucked. That's what happened. And that's what happened to Roddy Piper. He lost, which is exactly what happened to Jungle Boy here in this match. He had the chance to use the title, and he didn't, and he lost. So Guevara hit the GTH on Jungle Boy, and Darby then hit a coffin drop onto Sammy, only for MJF, though, and this was clever. This was a clever finish. I like this. Without Darby knowing, as he was going up to the top rope, MJF slipped the AEW World Championship belt. I think it was Sammy who was down. And he put the title belt on, and again, maybe it was Jungle Boy, I don't recall exactly who it was, but he put the title belt on top of them. So when Darby came off the top of the coffin drop, he collided with the belt and knocked himself silly. That took him out of the equation, and MJF then rolled up Darby with a side headlock takeover, and he pinned him to retain the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. I love that finish. I love that finish, and I would say that Darby has to be the one to take the title from MJF. I mean, this is not the first time he's been beaten with that side headlock takeover. Darby has to be the one to beat him for the belt. I say that, but then I think of what Darby said about doing that Mount Everest climb next year. It's going to be literally drawing up his will sometime in the month of June, because he could very well die, as other people have. He's very serious about doing that. I don't know how long that's going to be. That could affect the way that Tony Khan decides to book him, but were it not for that, I would think he'd be a shoo-in to be the one to take that belt eventually from MJF. with a side headlock takeover. But this was an excellent match. Yes, it was a spot fest. There were tons of spots. There were tons of sequences, but they did it very well. These are four men who went in there tonight. They felt like they had something to prove, and they knocked it out of the park. This could have been a main event on any pay-per-view. All four men did a tremendous job here. And as far as Jungle Boy goes, I was talking about the idea of maybe Jungle Boy going heel soon. Not necessarily tonight. But, the possibility of him going heel, because I think the whole Jungle Boy, babyface thing is kind of played out. And maybe they would work some kind of spot into the match on this show where he's got the match won. And Darby Allin breaks up the cover at the last second. It was the opposite, where Darby had the match won at one point. And Jungle Boy broke up the fall. But that spot where Jungle Boy thought about using the belt and then he dumped it and he thought better of it. That spot may have been there for a reason, right? That could be the catalyst still, I think, for a heel turn for Jungle Boy. And maybe a feud coming up possibly with Darby Allin. But I definitely think a heel turn would probably do him good. Can he carry, the heel promo aspect of it? That I don't know. But I think that's something definitely to keep an eye out for. Hang tight, guys. Give me a second. Ugh, I'm dying over here, but we're almost done. We are almost done. We have now come to, officially, the main event on this show. They closed the show with Anarchy in the arena, with the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club. Justin Roberts got on the microphone, and he told us that shit's about to hit the fan, which I think is what he did last year, before the first one. So it was Kenny Omega. He introduced us to Anarchy in the arena. It was Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, and the Young Bucks. They entered to Carry On Wayward Son. And they had a live band. Violent Idols was the live band who sang Wild Thing as the Blackpool Combat Club made their entrance through the crowd. The lead singer, because I know there was some I saw some controversy on social media about this. The lead singer was wearing a black mask. So apparently one of the things this band is known for are wearing black masks and sometimes red masks. So the lead singer came out and he was wearing a black mask that covered, most of his face except like his mouth area. I did a double take like I know a lot of other people did when I first looked at him, because I didn't think it was a mask that he had on. But it was a mask that he had on. Apparently that's just something that they do. So Don Callis was out to do commentary for this. And as soon as you heard Don Callis, who had a tremendous sit-down interview that he did with Jim Ross, I believe they aired the interview or part of the interview on the preview show. But I know it was up on their YouTube channel. I was watching it earlier. It was like 13 minutes long, but really, really good. Just a sit-down interview where Callis is talking about his relationship with Kenny Omega, going back to when Omega was a kid. And, all that he did for Kenny, and he still loves Kenny, but it was a really good piece of business. So when you saw that Callis was out here on commentary, you had to know that he was going to factor into things at some point. So the band continued to play. And I enjoyed the music last year. I think they were playing Wild Thing last year as well, the actual song, over the PA system for like 5 or 6 minutes. This just felt like it overstayed its welcome. Maybe I just didn't like the live rendition of it. But after a while, I was like, all right, I think we can probably put this to bed. But it kept going for a while because it was building to a spot where the Young Bucks gave the lead singer a double super kick. And so when they super kicked the lead singer, that was the end of the music for the match. But they were playing music, I'd say, for the first third or so of this match. Referee, if you wanted to take bets on who bled first, right, I bet probably 90% of you would probably have gone for Jon Moxley. You would be wrong. The first person to bleed in this match was the referee. Rick Knox got busted open early in this match, so he drew blood first. Hangman removed his eye patch during the match to reveal that his eye was all healed and there was nothing wrong with his eye. Jon Moxley was bleeding not long after. I know you're shocked by this development, but yes, Jon Moxley was bleeding. Jon Moxley, by the way, going to be in Japan next Sunday. He and Claudio are both going to be at New Japan's Dominion show. They're going to be wrestling for the Never six-man tag team titles against Okada, Tanahashi, and is it Ishii? I think it is Ishii. It's going to be Moxley, Claudio, and Shota Umino. Shooter. Be going for the open weight six. I think is it the Never open weight six-man tag team titles. So Moxley suplexed Omega. I'm going to try to go through the key stuff here. Again, pure insanity. I'm not going to walk you through every step of the way. You don't need me to do that. But some of the key spots here. Moxley suplexed Omega onto some barbed wire. Matt and Claudio, they fought on the concourse because they were just brawling all over the place here. Danielson and Yuta, they whipped Nick with belts at ringside. Moxley pulled out a fork, and he jabbed Omega's head with it. Claudio performed the swing on Matt on the concourse and sent him flying into a trash, I think it was a trash can. So, of course, we got a split screen shot of all the insanity that was going on. Omega had dumped Moxley at one point onto the barbed wire, which they missed, so they replayed it. Moxley's back was all cut up and all bloody from the barbed wire. Hangman Page and Nick Jackson, they were both bleeding from the forehead as well. Yuta slammed a chair over the back of Hangman. Moxley showed up at ringside. He threw a knee at Omega. He was raking his wound. Claudio and Matt, they fought into a pickup truck. They were actually fighting on the back of a pickup truck outside the building. And Claudio gave him a pile driver on the back of the pickup truck. Back in the ring, Yuta hit Omega with a leaf blower. I don't know where he got that from, but he hit him with a leaf blower. Claudio came back to ringside. He ran Omega into the barricade. Moxley put Nick in a Boston Crab while Yuta wrenched on Nick's neck. And Matt Jackson returned, and he threw a super kick at Jon Moxley while Moxley had this hold applied. And when he threw the super kick at Jon Moxley, his boot exploded. He had a boot laced, I guess, with pyro of some kind, and his boot exploded. This was the exploding super kick. I've not seen an exploding super kick before. I can tell you that for me, that's a first. Hangman performed a buckshot lariat on Wheeler Yuta, and Yuta kicked out. Claudio removed Matt's shoe, the exploding shoe, and he punted it into the crowd. And he got some distance on it too. He punted that fucking shoe about halfway down the aisleway into the crowd. So Matt had no shoe. He was shoeless. You heard of shoeless Joe Jackson before from baseball? This was shoeless Matt Jackson. He was missing one shoe for the rest of the match. Moxley then poured thumbtacks into the ring. And he picked up Jackson. He slammed him down feet first, which of course included the bare foot, down onto the tacks. So now his foot had thumbtacks. Didn't Joey Janela do a spot like that once in a match in AEW? I think he did. So this poor bastard had thumbtacks stuck in the bottom of his foot. Danielson then put Matt in a heel hook, which Nick Jackson broke up with a swanton. Moxley poured tacks in Matt's mouth, and Claudio caught him with a European uppercut. Omega hit the one-winged angel on Danielson. He had the pin. Wheeler Yuta broke it up. At this point, Don Callis gets up from the announce desk, right? So, angle alert, here we go. Callis gets up from the announce desk, and he hands a screwdriver to Wheeler Yuta, who hits Hangman with the screwdriver right in the face. Omega ducked a screwdriver shot, and he hit Yuta with a V-trigger. And he was setting up Yuta for the one-winged angel when Don Callis got into the ring, and Omega dropped Yuta. It was almost like he could feel this evil presence upon him. And he turned around, and he saw Don Callis standing in the ring. So we had a little face-off here with Omega and Callis. All of a sudden, a man dressed in black, with a black mask covering part of his face, enters the ring, and Callis drops to the mat. He is at the mercy of Kenny Omega when all of a sudden the Masked Man throws a knee strike to the head of Kenny Omega. He takes off the mask. He reveals himself to be Konosuke Takeshita. And it got a big reaction. The people reacted to him. They booed him when he did the reveal. Yuta grabbed the screwdriver. He hit Omega in the head with it. And then he pinned him with the seatbelt pinning combination to win it for the Blackpool Combat Club. This went almost 30 minutes. I kind of like the fact they let Yuta pick up the win here. I mean, he'd be the one, if anything, if they lost, you would think he would take the losing fall. So I like that. I like that they let Yuta pick up the win. After the match, Callis removed his belt. He started choking Omega with it. And he held up Takeshita's arm, and the Blackpool Combat Club all celebrated. And Taz, on commentary, assumed that Callis and Takeshita are now with the BCC. Excalibur questioned whether or not that's the case or not. So we still don't have clarity on if they are with the Blackpool Combat Club. It may just be a loose affiliation. But I didn't like this Anarchy in the arena as much as I did last year's. Last year's one I thought was a blast. It was one of my favorite matches all year. This one definitely lived up to the Anarchy name, though. So if you came into this and you were expecting just chaos and violence and blood, and honestly, this didn't have as much blood as Jon Moxley promised it would. There's been bloodier matches in AEW before, but it had all of that. So if you're into the barbed wire, you're into the tacks, and you're into all, if you're into all that bullshit, this was right up your alley, right? You had all that. And you had the big twist at the end with Takeshita coming out and screwing over the Elite. And I like the idea of him being associated with the BCC as opposed to the Elite. Which is why we've been talking about this on the podcast now for a long time. I figured this is where this was going. Even when they did the angle where the Blackpool Combat Club bloodied him up on TV, I said, that could be either a diversion or it could lead to Takeshita, kind of venturing over to the dark side. And that's exactly what happened. Don Callis has been recruiting this kid now for close to a year. So with Callis turning against Omega and the Elite, it was going to force Takeshita to make a decision. What side are you on? Doesn't make any sense for him to be kind of silently recruiting him for all these months and then just have him go align with the Elite. He's going to align with Don Callis. And he was very much over with the AEW crowd as a babyface. So you could argue, is it the smart thing to turn Takeshita heel? I think he'll be okay. I think it puts him in a great position. And, as far as this match goes, it's sensory overload with these matches just because there's so much shit going on. It's hard to keep track of everything that's going on. The music playing in the background for part of it. It was fun. I mean, it was a very good match for what you would expect it to be. But the big story coming out of it is where we go now for Blood and Guts, because there's going to be a second match, at least a second match between these two factions. Coming up on that time of year where they usually do Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts is usually 5-on-5. So, now you got Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Claudio, Yuta, and Takeshita, right? There's your 5. Well, the Elite only has 4. The Elite has Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson. Who's the 5th man? Bring on Ibushi. It's perfect. It's the perfect setup for AEW to bring in Kota Ibushi, who is a free agent right now and has talked about wanting to do something in AEW and has talked about wanting to do the Golden Lovers reunion with Kenny Omega. If Kenny Omega has to call upon somebody to come in to even out the sides, why not make a phone call to one of his best friends? So we're going to get Kota Ibushi in AEW very soon. Maybe we see him as soon as television this Wednesday. Depends when they do Blood and Guts. Last year, they saved it for after Forbidden Door. I think they did it the first week in July. So they have some time. Some people said that they were surprised Ibushi wasn't on the show tonight. I didn't think he had to be. It would have taken away from the Takeshita turn. We already had the big surprise appearance anyway with Chris Statlander. So Ibushi did not have to be on the show tonight. You can save that for either a Dynamite, you could save it for a Collision, you could save it for Forbidden Door. It did not have to be tonight, but make no mistake about it. Kota Ibushi is coming in, finally. We will be getting him very soon in AEW, and the stage is now set. And I am looking forward to that. But The story of this pay-per-view is the two main events that really saved the show. Saved the show from being worse than it was appearing to be, but it still will go down as one of the weakest of all of the AEW pay-per-views and the weakest of all of the Double or Nothing shows that this company has ever done. They've done 5 of these now. There were just some real disappointments on this show. The crowd didn't help. There were just some real disappointments on this card. Here's the Twitter poll. You guys seem to be reflecting what I just talked about. Less than 50% thumbs up, and I don't know that has ever happened for an AEW pay-per-view before. Usually the AEW pay-per-views, you can pretty well rely on at least 60 or up score. I can't remember one that had under 50. So we're at 47 or 48.7%. We have 30% thumbs in the middle and 20.6% thumbs down. So you can vote. Poll's going to be up for a couple of days. At Solomonster, let your voices be heard. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the show. What did you think of the show? What did you think of the 2 main events? Again, I thought the main events were fantastic, but the rest of this show, not so much. And no bigger disappointment than that Jericho match. That Jericho match really it left a sour taste in my mouth. Very disappointing. Let's take a look at your super chats here. And again, I want to thank everybody who dropped a super chat and gifted channel memberships. We have a lot more channel members now, thanks to a very select few of you. So I thank you for that very much. All right, we're going to kick things off here with Fire Panda dropping a $20 super chat. Sending this before the stream. So if I am wrong, then forgive me. But if CM Punk shows up, then it should be not just a very interesting night here in the chat, but it should be a very interesting few weeks of wrestling. Yeah, I was not expecting CM Punk on this show. I mean, what did you think? He was gonna come out at the end of the Elite match? Like, come on. Stand by. We have a little disconnect issue. And we're back. We had a little glitch in the Matrix there, but we are back. You didn't miss anything, though. I was moving on to Rob Dan Zan. Said, what were your thoughts on Rey Mysterio's heel run in WCW? Didn't like it. Thought it sucked. Thought it was pretty lame. There's a reason why Rey Mysterio was a babyface for most of his career. Rey Mysterio just does not work as a heel. Boots with the $2 says it may be the booze talking, but hit that like button. Yes, hit that like button. I don't know what you're waiting for. We doing Be the Booker later? What was the goal? 400? Oh yeah. We're heading for 600. Let's hit 600. We can at least do 600. I know it's late, but we can at least do 600. Phenomenal beard. Something I have never had. Been a fan for a decade, and you've gotten me through some low points over the last 10 years. Been down the last few days, and your content has helped a lot. I am very happy to hear that. I hope that things turn around for you. Hope that brighter days are ahead. But no, seriously, I'm very happy that, there's been plenty of content. So hopefully that'll help take your mind off things. And thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. And you do have a phenomenal beard. Rizzo with the $9.99. You and the chat may disagree with this, but that Chris Jericho Adam Cole ending was as bad as the Roman Braun Hell in a Cell match. An unsanctioned match ending by ref stoppage is lame. You and I are on the same wavelength here. You can't say that one sucked and the other one didn't, just because one was in WWE and the other one was in AEW. A non-sanctioned match or a Hell in a Cell match, there are just certain ways those matches should not end. And that ending here on this show was fucking lame. Tyler says, when will you go over Battleground? I probably would talk about it on the show next weekend. I'm not planning on doing a separate live stream for it, so If anything, I could give my quick thoughts on episode 811 next Sunday. Probably. Tuxedo T Servo, for anyone who has not seen it, the Don Callis Jim Ross interview on the AEW YouTube channel is self-righteous heel brilliance. It is quite great. It's very, very good. If you did not see it, definitely check that out. Roscoe P. Coltrane, is there a favorite non-pay-per-view show that you wish you had been in the crowd for? Any promotion or company? Yeah, there's two of them that come to mind. One of them was the Georgia Dome in July of '98 when Goldberg beat Hogan. I wish I would have been in the crowd for that one, and I wish I would have been in the crowd in late '98 when they taped that episode of Raw where Mankind won the championship. And Stone Cold came out, and it was the biggest pop of all time. You want to see the biggest Austin pop of all time? There it is. There you go. I mean, there have been bigger crowds. Like, he came out of WrestleMania last year in front of fucking whatever it was, 70,000 people. But I mean, you want to see a building go nuts? Camera shaking? That Raw where Foley won the belt. I would have loved to have been in the crowd for that one. Joshua Stitch, rather. Thank you for the $20, brother. I appreciate that. It's a Solomonster. So sick of tribalism in wrestling. Today I watch AEW and WWE, and both have flaws. I just feel like today with social media, it is so exasperated. Can we all just watch and enjoy without the need to pick a side? The timing of that Jericho super chat. Jericho is reacting to your suit. Get out of here. Get out of here, Jericho. I think that's very well said, Joshua. I think that I don't need to add anything to that. I think that's very well said. Let's see here. We have Rizzo with the $10 super chat. The Vegas crowd was dead for the first couple of matches. The Four Pillars match was the match of the night. The Anarchy match was distracting with the music playing. 5.5 out of 10. NXT Battleground, in my opinion, was 6 out of 10. So that comes from Rizzo. Yeah, I'm very curious to watch the NXT show. I already had the women's title results spoiled for me, so I know who wins, but I will check out the show tomorrow. Hopefully it's a good show. Nick Grasso with his first of 2 super chats here. Says, not a great show, but the ladder match, Chris Statlander's surprise return and winning the TBS title in the Fatal 4-Way Pillars match were the highlights, and the world title match should have main evented. Yeah, I mean, again, I can certainly understand that sentiment, but I think given the angle they shot, yeah, it's kind of like what WWE did at Night of Champions with the bloodline angle at the end there. You could say, well, they should have headlined with the World Heavyweight Championship match, but if that was the angle they were going to do, that angle had to close out the show. And I kind of feel the same way about what they did here with the Anarchy match, but that Pillars match, I mean, that could headline any pay-per-view. Those guys tore it up. He says, I feel for Jamie Hayter. Her title reign should not have ended that way. The Outcast crap ruined her title run. Maybe she will heal in time for All In and get her big moment in her home country. That is what I am hoping. I'm figuring that's probably the plan, but we just don't know the extent of her, her physical condition. I don't get the sense it's any specific injury that she needs surgery on. It's just maybe she takes a month off and, heals up and she'll be back. There was talk that maybe they were going to build to a Jamie Hayter Mercedes Moné match at Forbidden Door. And obviously with Mercedes' ankle injury, that's out the window anyway. Road Warrior Roderick. It's Roderick Welch coming in with the $5 super chat. The first half of the pay-per-view sucked. It did not get good until the House of Black match. This is the first AEW pay-per-view that honestly was not worth it. And that might be a better question to put to all of you, because it's not like Peacock where you just put it on and you just watch the WWE shows, you had to pay 50, not 60. I paid 50. You had to pay $50 for this show. I'm sure some of you didn't, but I paid $50 for this show. My question to you is this: if you paid for this show, now that it's over, do you think this show was worth the $50 that you spent on it? Was this show worth $50 to you? Chime in the chat, let me know what you think. Austin says, tonight I watched a potential pay-per-view of the year and also Double or Nothing. Very good. Very good. I knew where that super chat was going. Very good. Naughty Delicious Chicken with Flavor with a $10 super chat. After tonight, Swerve Strickland, Ricky Starks, The Acclaimed, Jade Cargill, and the rest of the black talent, I give up. They had great moments. Thankfully, New Japan, NXT, and WWE are options. Road Warrior Roderick, let me get this straight. Jamie Hayter loses, but Orange Cassidy wins. Again, ridiculous. I was a fan of his, but not anymore. And he also says, Mike E in the chat said Hayter is hurt, but Toni winning the title does nothing. You saw the crowd, they didn't care, and neither do I. Who is going to challenge her? No one knew. No one knew. No one interesting. Again, it's going to go back to Jamie. I think the plan is probably for Jamie to get the belt back at All In. So I would not freak out over this. Trill Mexican 305. Is it true that Jade Cargill lost her title to the stay getting injured prone alien? My guess is by Wednesday she gets injured again and the TBS Championship becomes vacant. What a waste. That's a horrible thing to say. Why not be happy for the woman? The woman has been through fucking ringer over the last 2 years. Total freak injury. I remember when she tore the ACL last year. It was a total freak thing. She just planted her leg. I think this was the other leg. So she had to go through the whole experience again. It's like Triple H tearing his quad twice, right? It's bad enough going through something like that once. She had to go through this twice. So maybe just be happy that the woman is back, and hopefully this time she'll be able to stay healthy. That guy from Staten. Give B-Pool Combat Club the all the gold moment. Oh, Blackpool. I don't know why I said it, because he wrote it that way, so I said it that way. One with a $10 super chat. First time catching a live stream on time. Have not watched the pay-per-view, but I'm here for your review. Also sucks to hear that it wasn't that good. The main events were, the rest of the show was not. Naughty Delicious says, I'm glad I was more invested on NXT Battleground and Best of the Super Juniors finals tonight. It's very good. Anti-M Bishop with the $15 super chat. Hey, Anti-M Bishop, thank you, sir. Greetings, been a while. Says, great show. My God, next month's show is going to be great. AEW really tried and delivered at the end. Seems NXT had the better show overall from what I heard. I heard the same thing, but I think the NXT show also had fewer matches. But I heard nothing but raves about the Ilya Dragunov Dijak match. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing that match. That match will probably end up being the match of the weekend if what I'm hearing is true. Fire Panda with the $20. Solo, I say this as the lady of the chat. Please take some time off until you are better. You don't need to be getting even more sick. We will patiently wait. Well, unfortunately, these wrestling shows, they won't wait. They never wait. There's always a new one. Always. But I appreciate the concern. Thank you. Room temperature pina colada. AEW went full WrestleMania 9 with the TBS Championship. Never go full WrestleMania 9. Yeah. Well, I mean, not exactly. Who was the Bret Hart in that situation, right? I mean, Taya wasn't the champion, so it's not exactly the WrestleMania 9 scenario. James Hollins, this show was a slog to sit through. Worst AEW pay-per-view so far. Devin from NJ, how much does Solomonster have left in the tank? Not much. Not much. I'm running on fumes here, but I'm doing my best. You guys are keeping me going. Silver Tower, thank you for the $4. Michael with the $9 super chat. I thought the Jade Taya match was the pleasant surprise of the night. Great work by both. I would have done the Statlander tease, but not pulled the trigger on the match right now. I agree. I would have held off on that. I would have built it up a little bit more. But they wanted to give people the big surprise moment. In all honesty, there weren't that many other moments on the show. So that's going to end up being one of the highlights people point to of this pay-per-view. Domination Warrior, what's your favorite finisher name? Favorite finisher name? Well, the sharpshooter is pretty cool. The cross-face chicken wing. Come on. Calling your move a chicken wing is pretty cool. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Those are the ones that come to mind. I don't know. Jose Hitch. Did you know humans eat more bananas than monkeys? Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone eating a monkey? It's true. You have a good point. Thank you, Jose. Gary Kozchuk with the $5 super chat. I enjoyed the show, but the 18-piece bucket of fried chicken I bought from Mary Brown's Chicken for my friends and I was better. All hail the mighty Gunther. Yes. You should present him with one of those buckets of chicken. You should always bring gifts for Gunther. I think Gunther would enjoy the fried chicken. James Hollins, AEW needs to stop having, what? Ex-WWE one-on-one matches? What are you talking about? I don't know what that's in reference to. Dylan Hensley with the $20 super chat. Hey, Dylan, thank you. Says, love what you do. Been a big fan of yours for a while. Right now, I am training at the AAPW Academy to be a pro wrestler. It's been tough, but I won't give up. You'll be criticizing my matches before you know it. Oh, I'll be here. You can wear it as a badge of honor, though. Just don't fuck up. That's all. Just be absolutely perfect and don't screw anything up. And don't give me any reason to criticize you and you'll be fine. But Dylan, good luck with your training. Keep me posted on how things are going. Sean D. Is it wrong that I'm tired of Jericho? No. It's like he never leaves now. One of my favorite things about him used to be he would leave for months and reinvent himself. King Taco. I had high, no offense to Matt Riddle, expectations for tonight's pay-per-view, and I was disappointed. Charlie with the $9.99. Hard disagree on the show. I was there up close and it was lively. I'll agree on the women's matches and the sanctioned matches. It felt like the crowd was a bit deflated, but otherwise there was a lot of cheering. Okay. Well, it didn't come across that way on the pay-per-view until like the second half of the show. Second half of the show, they woke up. It says, I'm not sure how it came off on camera, but it was lively for sure. So that was from Charlie, who was in the building tonight at the pay-per-view. Prime time. Hey, brother, thank you for the $50. Says, disappointing crowd. We go from that to disappointing crowd. See, I'm not the only one who thought this. Disappointing crowd compared to the last few WWE events. I think Cole and Jericho tried for the HBK Jericho finish, but it fell flat. Loved Anarchy in the arena, but the Four Pillars should have closed the show. Who challenges MJF next? Well, Forbidden Door is coming up, and if MJF is going to wrestle on that show, I could see him and Tanahashi, just because in storyline MJF hates New Japan. He despises it. So if he's forced to be on the show, it would make sense to put him in there, not in a title match necessarily, but put him in there with one of the big stars from New Japan. As far as AEW, as far as AEW is concerned, I think Adam Cole is being groomed for that spot. You know, as underwhelming as that match was tonight, I still think the plan is probably MJF and Adam Cole in I presume Chicago for All Out in September. I think that's going to be his next big challenger. But in the meantime, heading into Forbidden Door, I would think it would be Tanahashi or somebody from New Japan. Silver Tower follows that $50 super chat and says, I will top you. It drops a $110 super chat. Thanks for the review. Hope you get better soon. Silver Tower, thank you very much. HBKC83. Chris Statlander, Jade's match kind of reminded me of the Ultimate Warrior against the Honky Tonk Man SummerSlam title change. That's right, from '88. Yeah, it's a little bit similar. I can see that. Tarkham K. Rest. Thanks again for the shows this week. Really helping me get through some rough times, and I appreciate you working sick. Get well soon. Tarkham, thank you very much. Hopefully this week coming up is better than the last week. Gary again. Update. I am still eating this delicious chicken. Yes, but is it naughty delicious chicken with flavor? That's what I need to know. That's the only chicken we talk about here. Is naughty delicious chicken with flavor. Dallas says, just came back from the arena. It's a 6 out of 10 show. I love the main event and the Battle Royal, but the rest was okay. I cannot take Adam Cole seriously at all. Anti-M Bishop, being honest, which was better, Double or Nothing or Night of Champions? All the best. Man, I mean, again, those two main events were really, really good. But I gotta go, you know, I would go Night of Champions. Yeah, but you know what, though? I'm trying to think here. The opening match and the closing match on Saturday were excellent. And in the middle of the show, we had a good match, not as good as their WrestleMania match. We had a good match with Asuka and Bianca, and we got the big title change that shocked a lot of people. On this show, the two main events delivered. I think they delivered. And then we had the Chris Statlander moment. So they kind of match up. I'm going to go with Night of Champions. I think overall Night of Champions was the show that I enjoyed more. Let's put it that way. But it's close. It's not a slam dunk. Nasir Alexander with the $4.99. Ilya Dragunov against Dijak, match of the weekend by far. Hot take. Battleground was better than both Night of Champions and Double or Nothing combined. Well, if that's the case, I'm looking forward to watching it tomorrow. You got me all hyped up now for Battleground. Wapa Tapa. AEW placating. Not even sure what that means. Hey, Wapa Tapa, thank you for the $2. Daniel Malcolm, Solo sounding like the early podcast audio days. Yeah. Well, it's not that bad. Come on, it's not that bad. And MH Nova, tonight, interference or nothing. Or AEW Extreme Rules. It did feel like interference or nothing. Right? The ref bumps and the interference, it was too much. It was overdone on this show for a company that I thought was offering us an alternative to that. For a company that I thought was offering alternatives to us, they sure do give us a lot of WWE type stuff, don't they? Sometimes I look at it and go, this feels like WWE light. And with all the interference and bullshit, that's kind of how I felt. So, I think that covers all of your super chats. Again, the likes goal tonight to do Be the Booker was 400, and we are a lot higher than that. So I thank you, because when you hit that thumbs up, it does help the video out a lot. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and Be the Booker.
Ladies Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
There's the elite, the losers of the night. We're gonna book some matches here. We had a horrible night last night. We went, well, I guess it was during the day, but we went 0 for 3. I can't remember the last time that happened. We went 0 for 3 and be the booker. So surely we can at least get one here. I certainly would hope so. You have to be able to at least get one. Kick things off here with Logan Paul. Logan Paul's had some pretty good matches. Logan Paul's pretty good. Let's see. Let's see who we end up with here. Logan Paul going to go one-on-one with Joseph Park Esquire. Man, I like Joseph Park. I do. I really like this gimmick. But Joseph Park and Logan Paul, I can't give that the bell. Although Logan Paul and Abyss, when Abyss was still at his peak, I feel like that would have been a hell of a match. I feel like those guys would have done some crazy shit. On the women's side, we kick things off with Raquel Rodriguez, who's going to be challenging in less than 24 hours for the women's tag team titles. It'll be her and Shotzi. They're going to be one of 4 teams on Monday Night Raw in that fatal 4-way. Maybe it'll be Raquel and Shotzi one-on-one here and be the booker. It's going to be Raquel one-on-one with Lana. Oh my God. I think I jinxed it. I said, surely we can't go 0 for 3 back-to-back nights. I think I jinxed it. Well, we're 0 for 2. It all comes down to this. It all comes down to the tag teams. Oh boy. We begin. All right, that's good. That's good. We start with the Rockers. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. That's a great start. Great tag team. Let's get a drum roll going here. It's going to be the Rockers taking on Proud and Powerful. Yes, finally, we got one. Santana and Ortiz against the Rockers. That would be a very good tag team match. I knew we'd get at least one. We had to at least get one. Proud and Powerful against the Rock. What do you guys think of that match? That'd be a pretty good match. We are saved. Yes, 1 for 3. Not a great score, but at least we got one. Dr. Scorpio says, take a few bucks, launch it to the skies. Congrats. You now have Starbucks. Oh, boy. Jesus. Thunder Force. So Chris Statlander's TBS Championship reign started with a big bang. Oh, my God. What is going on with you guys? What's going on here? And Silver Tower is ending us on the highest of highs because Silver Tower just gifted another 20 channel memberships. I've lost track of how many that is over the last week. It's over 100. I know, just from Silver Tower alone. I know it's over 100. It might be like 130. You know, the only bad thing about that, I will say, the only bad thing about that is if people don't renew after the 30 days, the inevitable crash. But for now, we just gained a lot of new channel members, so we have Silver Tower to thank for that. Look, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me here on a very late night. It is after 2 a.m. here on the East Coast. And I did think about maybe not doing the stream because I just feel like shit. But I said, I can't leave you guys hanging. It's a big show. We got to talk about this. Tomorrow's Raw. you know, when am I going to do the stream if I don't do it tonight? So I'm glad we did it. Leave some comments under the video when we get out of here. Hit that like button if you have not already done so. Don't forget to go vote in the Twitter poll as well. Twitter poll is up if you have not voted. I should be okay enough, I hope, to be with you again tomorrow night for Monday Night Raw. It's going to be the Memorial Day episode of Raw. I will let you guys know on Twitter, though, if that changes, if I skip out on it or not. But hopefully I'll be with you live again tomorrow night. So, we made it. All right, be well, stay safe. Check out episode 810 of The Sound Off. An hour and 40 minutes plus of audio just for you. Talking all the news of the week and answering your questions too. There's some good mailbag questions in there. So if you missed the podcast today, go check it out. Until then, until tomorrow night, I bid you farewell. I will see you guys for more live Sound Off here on YouTube. Take care, guys.